Hello hello everyone. We are going to revise My Last Duchess by Robert Browning. As you know, My Last Duchess is a dramatic monologue. It is written by the Victorian poet Robert Browning and it was written in 1822. In this poem, the Duke of Ferrara, he uses a painting of his former wife, the Duchess, as a conversation piece. In this poem, the Duke speaks about his former wife, the Duchess, to a representative of the family of his to-be wife. He reveals his obsession with controlling others in this process. Browning uses this compelling psychological portrait in order to describe the despicable character of the Duke. So, in this poem, we see that the Duke of Ferrara directs or attracts the attention of a guest to the painting of his former wife, the Duchess of Ferrara, which hangs on a wall. The Duke praises the painting for looking very lifelike, and then he remarks on how hard the painter of this painting, Fra Pandolf, worked hard on it one day. The Duke asks the guest to sit down and look at the work. The Duke then explains that he deliberately mentioned the name of the painter because strangers, like the emissary or the messenger, always look at the Duchess's painted face with its deep, passionate, and earnest glance. And then they turn to the Duke, and only the Duke can pull back the curtain that reveals the secret about the painting and act as though they would ask if they dared how such an expression came into her face. The Duke repeats that the guest isn't the first person to ask such a question or this question. Then he continues by saying that it wasn't only his presence, that is, the presence of the Duke, that brought that earnest look into the painted eyes of the Duchess, or the blush of happiness into her painted cheek. He says that perhaps Fra Pandolf, the painter, had happened to compliment his Duchess by saying that her shawl drapes over her wrist too much, or that he might have said the paint could never recreate the faint half blush that is fading on her throat. The Duke insists that the former Duchess thought that comments like these were reason enough to blush, and he criticizes her in a halting way for being too easily made happy or impressed. He also claims that she liked everything and everyone that she saw, although his description suggests that she was ogling everyone who crossed her path. The Duke objects to all this. To his former Duchess, everything was the same and made her equally happy. Whether it was a brooch or present from him, that is, the Duke, her husband, that she wore at her chest, or the sun setting in the west, or a branch of cherries which some interfering person snapped off a tree in the orchard for her, or the white mule she rode on around the terrace. He says and he claims that she would say the same kind words or give the same blush in response to all the above actions. The Duke also objects to her manner of thanking men, although he struggles to describe his concerns. Here the syntax is broken. Specifically, he complains that she values his pedigree and social position, that is, his 900-year-old name, as equally important to anybody else's gifts to her, because she thanked all others equally, and also she felt equally happy with other gifts, and she did not distinguish in them. The Duke rhetorically asks whether anyone would actually lower himself enough to argue with someone about their behavior. He imagines a hypothetical situation in which he would confront the former Duchess. He says that even if he were good with words and were able to clearly say that this characteristic of yours disgusts me or annoys me, or here you did too little or there you did too much, and if the former Duchess had let herself be, degraded herself by changing instead of being stubborn and making excuses, that even then the act of confronting her would be below his standard, and he refuses to even lower himself, degrade himself in that manner. The Duke then returns to his earlier refrain about his former wife's indiscriminate happiness and complains to his guest that while the Duchess did smile at him also whenever he passed, but he says that she gave the same smile to everyone who passed her. The Duke explains that she began smiling at others even more. So he gave orders and all her smiles stopped forever. Presumably because he got her killed. He had her killed. Now she only lives on in the painting. The Duke then asks the guest to stand up and to go down with him to meet the rest of the guests. He also says that the Count, who is shown here as the master of the guest or the emissary or the messenger, and also who was the father of the Duke's prospective bride or the bride to be. He is so known for his generosity in matters of money or giving that no request of the Duke could made for a dowry could be turned down. The Duke also very quickly adds that he has always insisted from the beginning of their discussions, that the Count's beautiful daughter and not the dowry is his primary objective. The Duke ends his speech by demanding that he and the Count's emissary should go downstairs together, and on their way he directs the emissary's attention to the statue of the god Neptune taming a seahorse. This is a rare work of art, and the Duke says that Claus of Innsbruck had cast this statue specially for him. Here, the Duke tries to show that he is a great lover of art. So here we see that the Duke, who belongs to the Victorian society, denied women the right to be fully independent human beings, and through this portrayal of the Duke, Browning critiques such a viewpoint. The objectification and dehumanizing processes that rob women of their full humanity. The Duke's treatment of the painting reflects his treatment of women as objects to be owned. His description of the painting as a piece and a wonder portray it as a work of art rather than a testament to a former love. By repeating the name of the painter, the famous Fra Pendorf, 3 times in the first 16 lines, he again implies that he values the painting because of its status as an object that shows off his, that is, the Duke's wealth and clown. So, thank you.